Welcome to class. So I want to show you how to draft the basic bodice block using the Natalie Bray method, and I'm going to be using 10 simple steps to explain it to you. So you should be done with this draft in about 10 to 20 minutes based on how well you understand what I'm doing. All right, so I'm going to try my best to explain but also still work with the time frame. All right, so the first step is to write out your measurement. So the pattern I'm going to be sharing is going to be using the measurements directly in the size chart. So you can use this for ready to wear, or you can just use this to practice before you actually start taking your measurements, so you have an idea of how it looks like. So these are patterns that I've already drafted. This is a small size, I'm sure you can see, and this is for someone that is very big, a plus size. I'm sure you can see the difference in the patterns. All right, and the principle is the same. The back should mimic the spine of the back, the curve of the back. All right, and the front should be able to accommodate the bust, having the shoulder dart and then the waist dart as well. All right, so that's pretty much it. So for this one, you can see it has a shoulder dart and the other one doesn't have a shoulder dart. Like I said, I'm going to try to work with time. One thing I want to point out is I'm going to be drafting this particular class in centimeters, and the next one I would record after this would be in inches, so it's easy for you to understand. Another thing to take note of is I ran out of white paper, so I had to just get A4 papers like this, and I sellotaped about 12 pieces to get my pattern paper for this class. I'm going to be making a plus size first, all right, and then for the other video in inches, I will just be working with a small size or a medium size, whichever one I decide to use. So like I said, step one, we write out all the measurements that you need for this class. So I'm going ahead to write out all the measurements I'm using, and then finally I'm going to write out the formula that we are going to be using. It's very simple. Half of your bust, and then we'll be adding 5 centimeters. This is called wearing ease. Wearing / drafting ease. The next step is to draw out all the lines on your pattern. That's all the lines, horizontal, vertical, that we are going to be using for this draft. So you start from the top of your paper, draw a top line. Then go ahead to draw a line at the side here. All right, so top line, center back. So let's just start drafting so I don't take too much of your time. So point O, CB is 5. So it means you are going to come down. So CB is your center back. So that's top line. This is center back. This is short form is CB. So mark point O along your CB line. Your point O. So after drawing your point O, you're going to measure 3 centimeters down. That is your shoulder. This is standard for your shoulder. 3 centimeters downwards. So we came down by 3 centimeters, right? From your point O, measure your depth of armhole, 25.5, 25.5. So I need to draw a straight line across. If you are pretty confident in how straight your line is, just place your ruler and draw. But if not, place your tape at the top line. Measure what this is. So you're measuring from point O to the measurement that you have, right, on your here. But when you want to get a straight line, you would measure from your top line to where you marked here. So this is 30.5. So this is your armhole line. Armhole / bust line. Next is your nape to waist, your waist length, which is is same as your nape to waist, but it's called waist length in the textbook. So that's 44. We're going to do the same thing that we did for the armhole line. Place your tape at the top line to get the value. That's 49, so that we can draw a straight line. So that's your waistline. Then to get your hip line, let's elongate this line a little bit more. To get your hip line is a standard 22 centimeters for ready to wear. This is the hip. All right, so before we leave the back and move to the front, find the distance between point O to your armhole line and then divide that by 2. So this is your back line. Now let's move on to the front. We're still drawing the lines. So to get the front, we're going to use both of these formulas. So let's quickly calculate. Half of this bust is 62 plus 5 will give us 67. Half of the hips, 130, 65 plus 3 will give us 68. So whichever one is the bigger measurement after calculating, you would measure this way. From here like this. So 68. So this is the center of the front, that is CF. Now let's go to the neckline area. So we are going to also mark the shoulder line. So for the front, this is your point O. Okay. So to get your shoulder for based on the bust you're working with. So if you're working with a small size, you would measure 4.5 down. But if you're working with a medium or a plus size, this is a plus size, you would measure 4 centimeters down. And you would mark this way and roll. So this is the shoulder. So let's come here. So based on the size you're working with, small size, you do 4 centimeters up and down in the front for the chest and the bust line, true bust line. Medium size, 5 centimeters up and down. For plus size, 6 centimeters up and down. So for this is a plus size, 6 centimeters up and down. All right, and you roll. So this and your true bust line, where you will place the actual bust measurement. Draw this all the way to the back. So this is your TBL. This is your true bust line. This is your chest. This is your back. The next thing to do is to draw the back and front neckline. To draw the back neckline, you will measure whatever value you have as your back neck measurement. Draw it, and then you're going to go upwards from point O 2 centimeters, standard 2 centimeters. All right, so that will become your NP. So we've drawn that. Let me curve that out. So this is your back neck. So moving to the front, same measurement. Measure 9 and 9. So whatever value you use at the back is what you use in the front. So you can draw this drawing with a curve. You have your NP. Okay. So the next thing to do is to draw the back shoulder and the back armhole. So to draw your back shoulder, measure your back width. This is your X back, divide it by 2. So we are going to have 22.5 if I divide that by 2. And roll all the way up. Okay. Now on the shoulder line, come out by 2 centimeters. Standard of 2 centimeters. So I'm writing out the standard so that you can remember. Then join your shoulder this way. Okay. Then take your back UP. This UP is on the arm point. Measure from here, whatever value you have. So 8 is what I have here. And join this together. Okay. Now before we go, we need to draw the shoulder dart. If there's a shoulder dart. So the shoulder is 15. So measure your NP. This is called SP. Shoulder point, neck point, shoulder point. SP. So this is 16.3. So 16.3. We have a shoulder of 15. So we have a dart of 1.3. If you don't have a dart, just leave it. But if you have a dart, follow this method I'm about to do. Right? So measure halfway, half of this line. Now divide this dart into two and measure it on either side. So for this, I'm going to mark this way and this way. And draw your dart this way. Right, so we are done with the back. Now let's move on to the front. The next step, step 5, is to do the back and the front shoulder. All right, so for the shoulder, measure a standard of 16.5 centimeters. A standard mark here, and you roll from NP to that point. All right, so to get your shoulder, the length of this line, add your shoulder to the dart that you have, whatever you have on your shoulder and your dart. So for me, this is 11.5 plus 15, 26.5. All right, that's my shoulder. All right, so now we want to draw the shoulder dart. To draw the shoulder dart, take your chest width, divide it by 4. 47.5 divided by 4. Small maths. Or you can just take your tape roll and fold it 4 times. So you fold it this way the first time, fold it, this is 47, fold it this way into 2 first, and then into another 2. Be careful so you don't make a mistake. All right, so when you are done, whatever value you have, so I have I'm going to start from where this tape starts from. So I'm just going to place it on my armhole line like this and mark. So instead of calculating, but if you want to calculate, this is going to be almost 12, or you can approximate it to 12. This is 11, I'm sorry, yeah, I'm right, 11.875 can be approximated to 12. So let me measure what I have here. This should be, okay, this is 11.8 actually, so we can make it 12. All right, so come down by 2 centimeters standard. Okay, roll this line all the way up to your shoulder. Your dart value, measure it from that point. Measure it this way and connect. So this is how you draw your shoulder dart. So this is your dart. Very simple. Now we need to get the chest. Your chest is 47.5. Divide that by 2. So the same way we did it here, divide it by 2. So we have this, divide it by 2. Place it here and mark. Now there's a shoulder dart here, which means by the time we sew this dart, this length becomes shorter. Measure what you have here on this line. This is 3.4. Add it here. And this becomes your chest point. Okay. I want to draw the armhole now. To draw the armhole, we need to get the UP underarm point for the front. So take this 67, subtract it from whatever you have from here to here. From here to here, we have 30.5 minus, so this minus 30.5, this calculation minus 30.5, 36.5. So from the front here, mark 36.5 and mark this way. So now we have the UP. So we're going to connect SP to CHP to UP this way. So your curve is going to go down this way. So we are done with step 5. Now we're done with step 5 and step 6. So step 5 is drawing the shoulder. Step 6 is drawing the armhole. All right, so now let's draw the side seams. We're pretty much almost done at this point. And pull this up. So to the hip level, take your hip and divide it by 4. So 130 divided by 4, that's divided by 2 is 65. So divided by, let's divide 65 by 2. And again, you fold your tape into 2, place it this way, and mark where the metal is. So very simple way of doing that. All right, and then draw this. This is your side seam. So for this front, measure the exact same thing you measured here plus 3 centimeters of ease. So whatever I measured here, this is 32.5. This should be 35.5. That's 32.5 plus 3. So I have that here. So I'm going to join this to the front because it's the same thing. So that is step 7. Now this is your basic bodice block. I don't know if my camera is showing the whole thing, but this is your basic pattern that you can manipulate to anything that you want.